This video is sponsored by DevMountain. If you're interested in learning web development, iOS, or UX design, DevMountain is a 12-week design and development bootcamp intended to get you a full-time position in the industry. To learn more, visit devmountain.com or click the link in the description below. Hey, what's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to take a look at Koa, or Koa.js, which is a very minimalistic server-side framework that runs on Node.js. And I know that many of you might be thinking, come on, another framework, and that's fair. But as far as the backend, Express has basically ruled it in terms of Node.js frameworks or JavaScript frameworks on the backend. But the creators of Express also created Koa. And if you know Express, you'll see that the syntax is very, very similar, and you'll pick it up very quickly. It is a bit more modern in terms of, it uses all ES6 and so on. And I absolutely love this framework. If you like Express, you'll probably like this. In fact, I have a couple projects that are coming up, and I'm thinking of using this framework for at least one or two of them. So we're going to spend a couple minutes just looking through some slides, talking about what it is and its features and so on, and then we're going to jump in and just do a little bit of experimenting. It's not going to be a full project, but we'll build a little something. All right, so let's see. So what is Koa? So basically, I kind of just told you that. It's a widely used server-side framework for Node. It was created by the same creators of Express, Express is basically the most popular back-end JavaScript framework at this time. Koa provides a minimal interface for developing apps and APIs. So, of course, you can build apps that render views on the server, or you could build just an API that serves maybe JSON, or probably JSON, that you can connect to with, say, React or Vue or Angular or whatever you want to use on the front end. So Koa is extremely lightweight. It has a very small footprint. It's smaller than any other Node.js framework, including Express, which is very minimalistic itself. It uses thinner and better middleware than some other frameworks, and of course you have the option to extend the framework with added modules. Okay, so basically with any framework you have different levels: Express, Koa, Python, Flask. These are all just almost micro frameworks where it's kind of bare bones, and you decide how you want to structure things, how you want to do things. Then you have higher level frameworks like Adonis, Laravel for PHP, Django for Python, which are much more high level and opinionated, and you have to kind of follow their guidelines. And I'm not bashing either one. I think they both have their advantages, but just to let you know, Koa is very, very light and very unopinionated. All right. Another advantage to Koa is it's a very modern framework, so it's built on ES6 plus, and it promotes a modern syntax. So, things like asynchronous functions and arrow functions, destructuring, things like that. It also uses generators and async await. It helps developers create apps and APIs that remain relevant over a long period of time. Now, when it comes to the request and response, the inner workings are a bit different than Express and other frameworks. There's a special request and response object on top of the standard objects, like the vanilla JavaScript request and response. It's supposed to accelerate HTTP server development by providing additional functionality. And we can use these objects to access various properties of a request, like the header, the path, method, URL, things like that. It also uses a context, which is like a single unified object that contains the request and response, among other things. When we're in Express and we write middleware or create our routes, we pass in that req, res, those objects into our function. With Koa, we pass in a context, okay, a context object, usually called CTX, which includes that request and response, or those objects, among other things. Okay, so it helps us write APIs more efficiently with some added methods and stuff. So, as I said, Koa is, let me just, where the hell's my arrow? So Koa is very minimalistic, meaning that it's pretty bare bones. Some common modules that can be used are the Koa router. So it's kind of like almost like React on the front end. React doesn't actually come with a router. You have to install the React router separately. So that's what you have to do with Koa as well. Koa EJS templating. It's an easy-to-use template engine to display views and layout. It's similar to just the regular EJS. If you've ever used that, embedded JavaScript, it's actually one of my favorite template engines for Node.js. And of course, like I said, you can build an API that just serves JSON and doesn't use templating, and then use a front-end framework. And then the Koa body parser is to parse any incoming data. So if someone submits a form or whatever and you want to grab that data, you would use the body parser. All right, so the overall advantages here are the small footprint, although it can be extended easily. It's very fast and efficient. It has a modernized ES6 plus syntax. It has enhanced HTTP with special request response objects that are built into a context. Also, it's very simple to learn. If you know Express, it has the same overall principles and has a very, very similar syntax. All right, so enough with the slides. Let's go ahead and jump in and experiment a little bit with this framework. All right, guys, so we're going to get started here. I have a blank folder called Koa Crash Course. And like I said, we're just going to experiment a little. We're going to create like a little tiny mini application where we can have a list of things, and it'll show it in a template, and we'll have a little form on a separate page that we can add a thing to that list. So very simple, no database functionality or anything like that. I want to keep this focused on Koa and also some of its modules to extend it. All right, so first thing we're going to do is do an npm init. I'm just going to do npm init y, just to not have to answer these questions. And then let's install Koa itself. So npm install Koa. So that'll install the core framework. And then I also want to install NodeMon so that we don't have to constantly refresh our server. It will just watch it for us. But I want to install it as a dev dependency. So I'm going to do -D and then NodeMon. Okay, and if I open up my package.json, we should see that pop up in here. There it is. And we're going to create a script to run our server. So let's say start, and then we'll just have this run NodeMon, and then app.js, and save. Okay, now obviously that's not going to work yet because we haven't created we don't even have an app.js file yet. So let's go ahead and create an app.js file, and let's open that up. And then you're going to see a lot of similarities with Express. So first we want to bring it in. So I'm going to say const Koa and require. You don't have to use an uppercase K, but I like to, so but you don't have to. And then we're going to initialize an app. So we'll say equals new Koa. And then I'm just going to do a simple piece of middleware here just to output something, just to set the context body, because we don't have a router yet. Remember that Koa doesn't ship with a router. So we're going to do app.use, okay, just like we would in Express. And we're going to pass in, I'm going to do an async ctx, and then we're going to use an arrow here. And all I'm going to do is set ctx.body equal to a string of hello world. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for now, and then I'm going to run app.listen and pass in a port, so 3000, and let's just put an arrow function here. Whoops. And we'll console.log, and let's just output server started. Okay. So let's see, I'm going to go down here and we're going to run this with npm start. Okay, so now you see server started and it's using NodeMon, so it's constantly watching. And then let's head over to our browser. And by the way, this is the KoaJS.com website. There's some useful information there if you want to look further in after this video. But let's go to localhost port 3000, and there's our hello world. Okay, so it's actually going to output that. So let's head back to VS Code. Now, like I said, actually, I also want to show you, of course, if you're building an API, you could output JSON. So we could do like message hello world. And if we take a look at that, and automatically you can see that it's JSON. Okay. There is also an extra module if you want to use to make this look better, called KoaJason. which I guess I could do real quick. I'm going to leave the server running and just open up a new terminal in VS Code and just do npm install Koa-Jason. And in the app.js file, I'm going to say const JSON equals require. And let's say KoaJason. And then we just need to add right here app.use and say we want to use that JSON and save. And now if we go look at, whoops, I got a lot of crap open here. If we look at it now, if we reload, you can see that it's it formats it, it puts this on its own line and so on. So just an extra little module if you want to make things look a little better. And it does some other things, I think, too, but I'm not going to really look into that right now. So now I want to install the router, okay? So we can create a route. So let's say npm install Koa-router. And we're going to bring that in just like we did Koa, so dash router. Router. Okay, and then we also need to initialize that. So we're going to say const router equals new Koa router. All right, and then there's one piece of middleware we need to put down here. And let's see, let me just label this as well. Say JSON prettier middleware. Okay, I mean, I'm just going to leave all this stuff just so you guys have it as a reference in case you want to use it, but it's not like we're not building like a nice clean application. It's just to show you guys how things work here. So what do we want to do here for the router middleware? We just need to add an app.use, and we want to do router.routes. Okay, and then there's one more. We can just chain on to this. We can say .use again and say router.allowed methods and save. And now we can create a route. So I'm gonna just copy. Let me just comment this. I'll just say simple middleware. All right, but we'll comment that out, and let's do router.get, because this is going to be a get request, to let's do just /test, and let's put in CTX, and then let's just do CTX equals hello test. Okay, so now we should be able to go to /test, and we should see this. So let's say localhost 3000 /test, and it didn't work. Why is that? Let's see, router.get test. Oh, I just hit CTX. It needs to be ctx.body. All right, so let's reload and we get hello test. Okay, so simple route. And of course you could do your JSON if you're creating an API, but I want to render templates on the server, so I'm going to use something called Koa.js. So let's do an npm install Koa-ejs. And it uses pretty much the same kind of syntax as regular embedded JavaScript, if you're familiar with that. It's one of my favorite template engines for Node. So let's bring this in. Now we're also going to need to bring in the path module, which is just a core Node.js module. So let's say path, just to work with file paths. So require path, and then let's bring in the template engine. We're going to bring it in as render. Okay, so we're going to say require Koa-ejs, and we'll bring that in as render. Now we have to actually go down. Let's see, let's put this right here, and we're actually going to call render. We want to pass in our app, and then we want to pass in a bunch of options here in an object. First is going to be root, which is the folder where we want the template engine to look for templates. So I'm going to just use the path module and say path.join and then _ dir name, and then I'm going to call the folder views. Okay, you can call it whatever you want, but you'll see views is usually what is used. Views is what is used. And this is just, dir name is just basically saying this folder, look in this current folder for the views folder. All right, second thing we need is a layout. Okay, so this is going to be the name of the file that we want as a layout, and a layout wraps all your views, because you don't want to put, like, let's say your HTML head tags and everything in there on every single view. You'd just be repeating yourself like crazy. So you want to have one layout with that, and then just insert your views into that layout. Okay, so that's what that is. And then we want to configure a view extension. Okay, and we're going to use HTML, so we can just do like .html. We can set cache if we want. I'm going to set it to false. We can also set debug, which will add a couple messages or error messages or whatever. I'm going to actually say false for that for now. And then we can start to work with templates. All right, so let's create a route for the index page. All right, and I'm going to say, let's just say index for now. So we'll say router.get for the index, and then I'm going to do an async ctx. Okay, and then we want to call ctx render, but since I used async, we just want to do await, and then ctx dot render, and let's render a view called index. Okay, so we'll save that. Now we need to go to our folder structure and create a folder called views, and inside views, let's create a file called layout.html, and let's also create a file called index.html. Now layout is going to be like, I'm just going to use Emmet, do exclamation tab, and it just creates a basic head body structure or whatever. We'll just call this, we'll call it things app, and I'll show you why in a little bit. It's just going to be a just very simple application where it just lists out things and we can add a thing. So not too much of an innovative idea, but this is just a crash course. Now, actually, you know what? I also want to use Bootstrap just to make it look a little better. So let's just go to getbootstrap.com, get started, and copy this link here. And we'll go and paste that in right here. All right, and then I'm just going to do a container class. And I just want to output everything right here. So any view we create with that where we extend this layout should be output here. And the way that we do that with EJS is by doing an angle bracket %. And since we're just outputting something, we want to put a line here, a line of hyphen or a dash, whatever you want to call this thing. And then body, and then we want to close it. Okay, so these are basically like EJS tags. So let's save that, and then let's go to index, and this will be our index view, which for now I'm just going to do an H1, and let's say things I love, and we'll save this. All right, so let's go back and let's go to our index page, and there it is, things I love. So let's see, and you can see Bootstrap is enabled, but why is it not in a container? Did I spell it wrong? I did. All right, so now, there we go. So with EJS, you can also do partials. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the navbar in a partial. So I'm going to say getbootstrap.com. I'm just going to grab from the documentation components and navbar, and let's just grab this nav here, and we'll just kind of change it up. So I'm going to copy that, and then what I'm going to do is create inside my views folder a folder called partials. Okay, and then I'm going to create a file in here called _navbar.html, and I put the underscore because it is a partial. Okay, so we'll paste this in, and let's just get rid of this form right off the bat. We don't want that. Let's see, let's go up the top here, change this to, we'll say things app, and we'll have this go to slash, and BG light, that's okay. I'm going to add a margin bottom 4 class just to push things down. And as for the links here, let's get rid of this li, this disabled li. Let's get rid of this drop down li, and let's get rid of, actually we just want one li here, and it's just going to be for the add page. So we're going to say add thing, and it's actually going to go to slash add. Okay, and I want it to be aligned on the right, so I'm going to do ML auto, which is margin left auto. Okay, so that's our nav bar. Let's save it, and let's go to our layout, and let's include it here. So the way that you include a partial, I'm going to do it above the container so it's not restricted. The way that you do a partial is just angle bracket %, and then you want to do include, and it's in the partials folder, and it's called underscore navbar.html, and then we want to close that. Okay, let's save and go back and reload, and there we go. Oh, I just want to add a container to push those in. So in the navbar, I'm just gonna go right here and say div class container, and we just want to move this div, the ending div, down to the bottom right above the closing nav tag. All right, so now if we go back and reload, there we go. This isn't going to go anywhere yet because we haven't created a route for it. Okay, so now let's see, what do we want to do next? Let's actually add the things. So let's see, I'm going to go to our app.js, and if we want to pass in anything to a template like the index template, we can do that. Like for instance, let's put we just pass in an object as a second parameter. Let's say title, and we'll say things I love, like that, and save. And then let's go to the index HTML, and instead of this, we want to do angle bracket % and then a dash, and say title, and save, and that should give us the same thing. There we go. All right, now I'm going to create in our app.js just kind of a global variable. Let me close the layout and the nav bar. We don't need that in the package.json. And I'm going to just create kind of a global variable that holds an array of things. And normally this would come from a database if this were a real application. You could use MongoDB with Mongoose, or Postgres, or MySQL, whatever you want to use. But that's not the point of this video, so I'm not going to get into that. But let's just go like, so I would probably put the database connection like right here. So I'll say replace with DB, and then we'll say const things, and I'm just going to set an array here, and I'll say my family, let's say programming, music. Let's just do that. And then down here, I'm going to pass in, along with the title, I'm going to pass in things as the things variable. So this is an array. So what I want to do is loop through this in our template here. So to do that, let's actually use a UL. We'll give it a class of list -group, Bootstrap class, and then to loop through, we just use JavaScript. Like we can just use a regular for each loop, but we just need to wrap any JavaScript inside of these tags here. So if we go like that, okay, and then we'll have to end the for each, so we'll do that again down here, and in here I'm going to say things, because remember we passed that in, which is an array, and I'm going to use for each, okay, and then pass in here. We can even use an arrow function, so I can say thing, and then go like that. Now this is going to be in the bottom, so we just want to go like that, and then it basically will end down here with a closing curly brace, a closing parenthesis, and a semicolon. Okay, and that will allow us to loop through the things. And what I want to put in here is just an li with the class of list group item, and then we want to use, this is important here, we want to use an equal sign if we want to output something within this loop, which is going to be the thing. Okay, and if this were an array of objects, then you would do like let's say it was users and they were objects, you could do user.name or something like that. But this is just a regular array, so we're just going to say thing, which is what we put here. So let's save this and let's check it out, see if it worked. And there we go. So now we're listing out the things that I love. All right, so let's see. Next thing, usually, I don't want to say usually, but for me, I wouldn't do it this way. I would create the routes separate and then create a method for each route. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. We're just going to go up here and say routes, and let's do router dot get, and for slash we'll have a function called index. Okay, and then we'll go down here, let's say list of things, and we'll say we can use an asynchronous function, so we'll say async function index. All right, and you need to pass in your context here, so we're going to pass in ctx, and then I'm just going to grab this, what we had in the initial route here, and paste that in, and then we can completely get rid of this and save. Okay, so let's go back and make sure it still works, and it does. So now let's create a new page. Let's create a new route right here. So we'll go ahead and copy this down, and let's make this go to add. And this is a get request. It's just to show the page. So I'm going to call the function show add. All right, and then what I'll do is just copy this. Why is my mouse not working? All right, so we'll say show add page, paste it in, and this is going to be the show add function, and then we want to render a template called add. And then as far as passing things in, we don't need to, so we're going to get rid of this and save that. And then let's just let's go into views and create a file called add.html. Okay, and this is just going to be a form, so I'm going to do an h1. I'm going to give it a couple Bootstrap classes, display4 and mb4, just to push things down. We'll say add thing, or thing, and let's do a quick form here. So action is going to go to /add. We'll have to create a post request for that. So let's say method equals post. Okay, then we want a form group, which is just Bootstrap, with an input. So this input, I'm going to give a class of form control, and also a class of form control -lg to make it kind of just bigger. All right, and then we'll put a placeholder. We'll say add something you love, and then let's put an input type submit. Oops, submit. And value, we'll say add. Let's give it a couple classes. So btn, let's do dark. Let's do btn-lg. And then let's just put a button to go back. So we'll put like a cancel button. It's going to be a link formatted as a button. So we'll say btn danger. We'll make it red. And whoops, we need to do dot btn-danger. And let's do btn-lg. Okay, and then this is going to go to slash, which is going to be the index page to go back. And then as far as what we put in here, we'll just say cancel. All right, and that should do it. We'll save it. Oh, one thing I forgot is the name for the input. We need to be able to identify this in the body, so we'll say name is going to be thing. Okay, so we'll save that, and now we should be able to visit the page. So let's go back and click this, and there we go. Oh, let's move that down. Why is that? Why is that so close? Oh, I put everything in the form group. We want to take the input and the link, and we want to move that outside of it. There we go. So cancel. If I add something, method not allowed. Okay, so now what we need to do is create a route for that post request that goes to /add. So in our app.js, let's create another route, except it's going to be router.post. It's going to go to /add, and then it's going to go to a function called add. Okay, now you can use, I know a lot of you guys know a lot of this stuff, but just for the ones that don't, you can use the same route for different methods. Like we could do add for get and post. We could do add for, put or delete. As long as the request is different, the request type, you can use the same route. So let's go down here. Let's see, show add page. Let's say add thing. So we'll say async function add. Now, in order to get the actual thing that's submitted, we actually need to use the Koa body parser. Sorry about that. So we're going to install that. npm install Koa- is it body parser? One second. I just got to check. I think, yeah, it's Koa-body parser. All right, we're just going to bring that in up at the top here. So const body parser require, and let's require the Koa body parser. And it's just nice that all of these things are related to Koa. You know, it's like it has its own little ecosystem, which is nice, rather than just all these separate things. So let's see, there's just a line of middleware we want to put in here. So let's say we just want to do app.use body parser, just like that, and that's it. Now we can go down to our add, and let's pass in our context, and let's say const body. I'm going to set that to ctx dot request dot body, and then I'm going to just take that things variable that we have above with the array, and I'm going to just push onto it body.thing, because thing is the name that we gave to that input. All right, and then we just want to simply redirect, so we can take our context object, which has a redirect. Well, it doesn't pop up here, but we have it. It should be redirect to /. All right, and that should do it. So let's try it out. Let's go back and let's reload, and we'll say let's say computers add. There we go. We can add some things. Let's say my subscribers, and we'll add. Okay, so that gets added. So that's pretty much as far as I'm going to go with this, guys. I'm not going to, I mean, you can make the delete requests and updates and stuff like that. Let's see. One other thing I did want to show you is if you wanted to add something to the context, you could do that really easily. So this isn't going to make much sense in terms of this application, but just to show you, we can add additional properties to context by saying app.add context dot name, or I'm just using dot name, but it could be dot anything, and I'll just set it to Brad. Okay, actually let's do user. And then anywhere, like let's say in the index, actually let's do the test. So we'll go to the test here, and instead of hello test, let's actually use backticks, and we'll say hello. And then to fetch this, we can just simply do ctx dot user. So now let's go back to our browser and go to /test, and we get hello Brad. All right, so you can imagine the possibilities as far as like authentication and all that kinds of stuff. You can simply just add properties to that context. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to show you is how to get parameters from the URL. So let's say we do router.get test. Let's do /:id, and let's go here. Actually, we'll do :name, and let's output ctx.params.name. So now what I'll do is go to the browser and I'll go to test2 / Harry. And that doesn't work. Did I do that right? Let's see. Oh, I said test 2 I wanted to do. So let's reload, and there we go. Hello Harry. If I put in, Kevin, we get hello Kevin. So you get the point. We can get our parameters like that. All right, so I think that's pretty much it for like the basics and the fundamentals of this framework. And you can start building applications. Of course, you could use whatever database you want. You're still using Node.js, so of course, if you want to use Mongoose with MongoDB, you can do that, or whatever you want to use. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.